really wanted to like this game. I really wish I could upload a video about a hidden gem that old school shooter fans must play. Sadly, this is not the case. On paper, this game is right up my alley. As someone who grew up on PC games in the 90s, my childhood is littered with hours in Doom, Duke Nukem 3D, Quake, Heretic, and even some more obscure shooters. Anyone else remember Descent? Seriously, if you've played Descent, comment below. I've yet to find anyone else who's played it, and sometimes I think I dreamt it up. The small 90s shooter renaissance we've been experiencing has had hidden gems like Devil Daggers and BPM. And while hardcore roguelike games have not been something I gravitated to, there have been some roguelikes that pulled me in. Games like Rogue Legacy, Dead Cells, and Hades, which I think was the best game of 2020. So again, on paper, mixing these elements should be perfect, but it just didn't hit right. If you're a fan of fast-paced, circle-strafing shooters and have Xbox Game Pass, then I'd recommend this game. It's an old-school shooter with a run-based roguelike system that will provide a few hours of fun. The full price is currently $15 on Steam, which is on the lower end of prices, but I still think you'd have more fun putting that $15 elsewhere. I don't want to make a video crapping on the game, not only because I'm under no illusions that making a game is easy, and I know the developers at Null Pointer worked hard on this game, but also because the game isn't bad. This isn't an example of some asset flipper or a rushed, janky project by a greedy corporation. It's just kind of dull. So instead, I'd like to talk about some of the issues I had with the game and perhaps some things I'd like to see in a possible sequel or Null Pointer's next project. First is the art style of the game. They went for this Quake-esque low polygon aesthetic with modern lighting and particle effects. And I get why they did it. I get that separating yourself with a unique art style can be a benefit, but it never looked good to me. Not only was it tricky to tell the difference between the background and an enemy, an issue I think the developers realized with the addition of health bars, but it just looked blurry in a way that had me constantly checking to see if my anti-aliasing was working. But art is subjective, so hopefully you like what you see. The next was the music. Like much of this game, the music isn't bad, it's just kind of dull and never complemented the action on screen. They have this dynamic track that picks up when you're in combat and slowly muffles away when you're not. I also feel like if they did focus on the music, the price would have immediately jumped up. So again, I get why perhaps they didn't make it a priority. But to me, a 90s-esque shooter is so synonymous with its music, it just feels like there's an element missing. And if you've played Doom, Duke Nukem, or Quake, I think you'll agree. While I don't expect them to get 9-inch nails in a la Quake, I would love to see music more of a priority. Sadly, whether you like the art style of music or not, I don't think it saves the game from itself. The way the game is structured is you craft keys to open a portal into the pit. Each pit is made up of levels that have different sections or altars that you have to clear. Once all altars are cleared, you go to the next level, deeper into the pit, until you reach the heart of the pit where you fight the boss. The problem is that the altars are so quick that you're only interacting with the gameplay for a few seconds at a time. You choose a section you want to clear based on the resource it'll give you, then you get into 90s shooter mode, bunny hopping and circle strafing for a couple of minutes or sometimes seconds before it abruptly ends. You close the section, you're given a summary screen, and it spits you back out, where you choose an upgrade, spin around to see what other resources are available, and do it again. The pacing just feels off. It never feels like you really get to play the game. I would have loved to see longer sections, maybe 12 to 15 minutes, just to satisfy that shooter element. The other aspect I wouldn't mind seeing different are the weapons, or in this case, spells. Before we were all beholden to reloading and only holding 2 weapons at a time, shooters often used the entire number row to keep all your weapons. And the later portions of games had some crazy, fun and bizarre weapons, from the shrink ray or freeze gun in Duke Nukem to the super nail gun or thunderbolt in Quake. The weapons were not only fun to use, but provided a little bit of tactical thought and excitement. Opening a door in Doom and seeing an entire field of demons left you thinking, damn, I'm gonna need the BFG. Here, there was nothing like that. You choose your 2 attacks from a random selection at the beginning of each run, and because of the random run-based nature of the game, I think Null Pointer didn't want a situation where you felt like you couldn't complete the run because you didn't get the BFG equivalent, or felt like you were going to have a bad run because of it. But what that created was a situation where I didn't really care what I got. You can have an attack with lots of tiny projectiles or one big one. A narrow spread, a wide spread, different rates of fire, but they all felt the same. I was never excited to use any of the attacks, and nothing ever felt powerful. Even the upgrades at the end of each section felt bland. You can improve the range or rate of fire, you can have your attacks apply different dots like a bleed or a poison, but nothing ever felt unique, and I was never excited to see a particular power-up or upgrade. This also bleeds into the roguelike part of the game. Whenever I got a new weapon or upgraded an ability in Dead Cells or Hades, I felt like I found the overpowered winning combo, only to upgrade the next ability or unlock the next weapon and be convinced that that was the winning combo, and this would continue throughout the game. Into the Pit never had me feeling that way. The runes and upgrades felt like more of the same. They were helpful and necessary for the later portions of the game, but it never changed how I approached the next run, and never changed how I played the game. Null Pointer can obviously make a good game. I don't doubt that. And this game does have me interested in what they do next. The combat feels good, circle strafing and shooting hordes of enemies feels fun, if not brief. And while the sense of progression is a little unsatisfying, it does exist. I do feel stronger run after run. If you have Game Pass and like 90s style shooters, there's no reason not to give Into the Pit a shot, and I'm sure you'll have a couple hours of fun. Unfortunately, the roguelike and shooter elements get in the way of each other here, and it ends up feeling less than the sum of its parts. As a reviewer wanting to help with a purchasing decision, if you've got $50 burning a hole in your pocket, I think that money would be better suited elsewhere. Ironically, there are even roguelike shooters that I think do a better job, like BPM or Immortal Redneck. Ultimately, Into the Pit ends up feeling dull and uninspired, but functions competently that has me interested in Null Pointer's next project.